Hi, I'm Bob Roth, managing partner and co-founder of Cypress Home Care Solutions. Since 1994, we've been helping older adults in the Phoenix community age gracefully and safely in the place they call home. Since 2014, I've been bringing you Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, a show dedicated to helping you live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Health Futures. And today is a special day because I have a guest that is making his third appearance here. So they always say third time's a charm. And you know what? I feel like it's going to be really special. And right next to him is somebody that was here just this past September. That's when they were last year, was when I was wrapping up my radio show and going, or should I say, just before going fully podcast. So without further ado, I have in the studio with me Caleb Lynn from the Lynn Law Group, and I've got Jenny Krulvich, and she is the client care advocate for the Lynn Law Group. Welcome back to Health Futures.
Bob, thank you for having us back. I'm not a hockey fan, but I think it's only appropriate to say it's a hat trick. The third time's a charm.
Oh, I love it. I love the metaphor with the hat trick. Well, we're here to talk about your elder law firm, but we're also here to talk about this symposium that you got coming up. It's a Elder Care and Legal Symposium being put on by the Lynn Law Group. So can you tell us a little bit about first the Lynn Law Group? You were here in September last, and you were here a couple years prior. But for our listeners that may be and viewers that may be watching for the very first time, love for you to tell us a little bit about the Lynn Law Group. It's a law firm that you founded, and you are the owner or partner in it.
Yeah, that's right. And Lynn Law Group it's been around for a while in various incarnations, but I founded it. We have offices in Peoria and Scottsdale. We are, as the name suggests, we are an elder law and estate planning probate law firm. Small but growing. We have 3 attorneys. I think a big part of what separates what we do is we're heavily focused on customer service and being empathetic to our clients and the folks that we deal with and the areas of practice that we serve. It sort of demands that not just the technical stuff that we do, as a law firm, but also the service oriented. And I think that's reflected in some of our core values, sort of like leading with empathy, live by the golden rule, advocate for others, and educate with honesty. And so I think we try to embody that every day in the work that we do and how we work with customers. And bringing Jenny to our team was a big sort of evolution of those things because we were purposefully kind of growing into a more holistic practice area to more holistically serve our clients' needs, which sort of also, which we'll talk about, but sort of also inspired our symposium. But we saw the clients that we've been supporting for a long time with the legal work have needs that went beyond the legal work, but we didn't necessarily have the bandwidth to serve them or provide them with the right direction. And so bringing Jenny on as a licensed social worker, as our client care advocate, that allowed us to expand providing our life care planning services, be more holistic and sort of help tie together some of those care coordination and advocacy things that we weren't able to help with before.
I want to double click on the empathy part because I know you, Caleb, and our viewers and listeners may not. Empathy is what drives you, and you have personal stories that have really put you into this practice of law that you're in right now. So if you wouldn't mind, share with me and our viewers and listeners your journey and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it was not the best circumstances, but I'm glad. I was just thinking about that this morning. I'm glad that it led me to this path. I was a lawyer and doing completely different kind of legal work, working in larger firms in high rises in Phoenix, and right about the same time, I had my mom. I'm an only child. My mom had some issues with dementia, and I was starting to kind of get concerned, like, hey, she can't live in this single family 3-bedroom home anymore. She's starting to fall. I live an hour away. What I don't have any support family wise. How can I do this. And then right around that same time, we found out our youngest daughter, who's now 15, was going to be born with a pretty critical medical issue that needed to be addressed basically right at birth. And that came with some issues that I didn't really know from a legal standpoint how to support or what, if anything, needed to be done. And I felt sort of guilty because I'm like, I'm a lawyer, but I don't know how to provide support to my own family. What good is that? And that sort of drove me to reorient what I do professionally. And I went back to school and got an advanced legal degree in estate planning and elder law and just jumped in, uh, head first. And since probably 2009, have done nothing but supporting families so that, and my goal is that if anyone who can, connects with us
Hmm.
that was in my shoes, like, the heck do I support my mom,
Right.
my dad, or my child? That if they get to us and if we're lucky enough to help them or work with them, they don't have to feel those same feelings of like question or overwhelmed or doubt that I did. That's sort of our goal. And that, like you said, that all ties back into that empathy piece.
Well, you've walked in their shoes, and I think that makes a real big difference. And I can't imagine the satisfaction it must give you to be able to help these families. And I know the woman to your left, my right, she has a story too. And Jenny, I would love your social worker. I know a little bit about your background. I know that you had a home care background previously, and I would love to know your journey and what brought you into this line of work that you're doing today.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much for having me today. Yeah, so I was very inspired to enter the field of social work after some personal experiences of my own. Both of my grandparents suffered from dementia back at a time when they were in two separate wings of memory care. And I remember at a very young age just feeling like that wasn't right. And I know, things have come a long way over the years, but I've always really had a passion to help other families who are struggling. At the time, my mom was raising us. I was probably 9 years old at the time. And she was also constantly talking with her sister about, her parents' needs. And it's just a lot to juggle. So being able to enter a field where we're able to support others who are going through similar types of situations really fills my cup and is rewarding for me. So I love that I have the opportunity to do this type of work and help others.
I love that you do. And I'm going to ask you this next question. So, client care advocate, why don't you walk me and through our viewers and listener, what does a typical day look like for
Yeah.
Jenny?
Yeah, every day is very different, but I love that. Some days I'm out in the field meeting community partners to be able to kind of build up a resource bank of vetted partners to provide services for the clients that need help with things. Our new service, Life Care Planning, offers people a holistic approach, blending together kind of legal advocacy, care planning, and care coordination. So we're able to come into the home, we do an assessment, we look at home safety, we look at activities of daily living and assess kind of where people are at in their abilities and their functioning. And then we identify their goals and talk about gaps in care and build a care plan really tailored to their needs. The wonderful piece about it is they have the ability to get their estate planning documents updated with this service as well. And we support them with navigating long-term care needs. So if they need Medicaid, if their family is just really struggling with figuring out how am I going to pay for care, we help support them with that as well.
Well, I love that you have this home care experience to really harken back on. And so much of it, what you're talking about as part of this life care planning is some of the work that you used to do. So that's really amazing.
Thank you.
And I also would imagine your social work training, you're dealing with a lot of people that are going through, we'll call it a crisis. I mean, these
Mhm.
life-changing events come at a time that they're never convenient.
Yeah.
They just happen, and families struggle. And I imagine you're able to use your skills as a social worker to really connect with them emotionally and let them know that everything's going to be okay.
Absolutely. And I think that the experience I've had, working in an agency that provided home care and care management under one umbrella was invaluable because we had the opportunity to oversee the in-home caregivers, communicate back with the family, make sure that there was continuity across providers. We know how broken the healthcare system is. So just making sure, if one physician changes a medication, that the others are aware of it. So yeah, it's been
100%.
wonderful experience. Yeah.
Awesome.
Mm.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the Lynn Law Group before we jump into the symposium. It's only been 8 or 9 months since we last did. So, I really want to ask you, Caleb, what is it that people get wrong when it comes to planning? And you see these clients of yours who, waited way too long.
That's the biggest thing is waiting too long, trying to take shortcuts, whether it's because they procrastinated and now they're dealing with a crisis on their hands or a near crisis, whether it's they're just like, hey, I've been sitting on this too long, and they feel some internal guilt, and they go to some online software or to ChatGPT or some AI mechanism to try to do their own planning. We see a lot of mistakes come that way. We do at our firm a little bit of litigation involving trust and estate work. And I would say 90% of those cases, we can look at them and sort of Monday morning quarterback what happened before we were ever involved. Say this could have been resolved or eliminated had there been either planning or proper planning. And so it's hard for a lot of families because sometimes they may use a professional, whether it's a document preparer or an attorney, and they don't know that maybe sometimes the advice they're getting isn't the best for their situation. So what I always encourage folks is to just stay up to date, do planning, stay up to date on it, get it reviewed frequently, particularly when life changes, and consult professionals in doing that. And I think that's the best way to try to eliminate a lot of these issues that we see arise in the real world due to lack of planning or poor planning.
So for our viewers and our listeners, we're using the word planning. And I'm just going to throw out this question. Is a will enough? Because most people think all I need is a will.
Absolutely. People think that. Yeah. And that's the thing I always talk to clients about. Even you and I know what we're talking about when we say planning.
Right.
Most people, what the heck does that mean? Does that mean I'm thinking about doing it? Does that mean I'm just writing my wishes down on a notepad? Does that mean I'm recording a video? Planning, when we talk about planning is estate planning. And what that looks like for people depends somewhat on their goals. For most, I would make the argument that a will is not enough. A last will and testament is wonderful for saying, hey, this is what I want to happen to my things when I'm gone. That's all it is. It's an instruction manual that's contingent upon your death that says this is where my things go. So it means nothing while you're living. And the other issue that I always tell clients is so many people think that if I have a will, I don't have to go through probate. And I think that's easy to think that. That's a common misconception. But the law doesn't work that way. If you have a last will and testament, is the key piece of your plan that dictates where your assets are going to go when you're gone, you're likely going to have to go through probate. And the reason is the will doesn't give any authority. It's just the instructions. Probate court, that's where you go to get the authority. You say, hey, court, my loved one had this will. They're now gone. I need to be able to sell their home, get their car, get their bank accounts, etc. I need that authority. And the court order is what marry that authority with the instructions in the will. So for people, and most do want to avoid probate, I would say to your question, a will is probably not enough.
So I know there are other instruments that you all use, and obviously, I'm a little more informed than the average bear in our space, but advanced directives are something that really come to mind to me, and I think of medical power of attorneys, mental powers of attorney. I think about DNRs. I mean, for our listeners, I mean, it really, and viewers, it's always something. It's a topic we always need to be talking about. And you and I think, talked about this in September too, of 25. It's not just for older adults, it's for us too. And it's for even children that are over 18. If you wouldn't mind, indulge me and our listeners and viewers, what are each one of those, and why should we do this? Because honestly, I know if you don't, you got to go to probate, and that is not only costly, but you don't have any control. And by having these documents in advance, from what I see, and I think you'll agree, is that it gives you more control of your destiny. And it lets people know. And I think the most important thing, if you're doing this, you're giving someone a gift. You're telling them what you want.
Speaking my language, Bob.
I know.
I love it. I love it. I went to a continuing education conference a couple of years ago for elder law attorneys, and one of the keynote presenters was a sociology professor from a college in Florida, and she was talking about wisdom. And I'm like, I don't need to sit through this, do I? I know what wisdom is. You get older, you learn more, you know more. Done.
Right.
I was pretty wrong. So there's a whole field of sociology where they study wisdom, and I hadn't understood that. But basically, something you said triggered this in my brain. She said that the greatest gift that we as elder law attorneys, that's who the audience was, can give to our clients is helping them plan. And she talked about wisdom as really this sense of mastery of making all the choices that you can make, so that you feel you've put everything into it, so that as as you age, as you have health issues, as you decline, you feel more comfortable with what you've put in place because you've mastered it. You've sort of contributed to your destiny, as you were alluding to. So I talk to clients about that. I'm like, this is a huge thing to help you later on. And as you said too, it's an incredible gift to your loved ones, because if you plan properly and smartly, you're going to avoid the fights or the court hassles that we help some clients with, and they unfortunately have to go through that.
You're giving them a roadmap.
100%.
It's totally, you're giving them a roadmap.
Right.
Yeah. And like the tools that build that roadmap,
Right.
they are helpful. And most of our clients, they build their plan around a trust. The reason why is a trust can provide a ton of flexibility. It also, if set up right, avoids probate. You can provide a lot of asset protection to the next generation, so that the gifts you're leaving them are protected from a lot of things they otherwise wouldn't be. If you have minor or disabled beneficiaries, trust is a huge, important piece for that. And it lives with you, hence the name Living Trust. So most people like that, because if they're ever incapacitated or something happens to them, there's more continuity in who can help them manage their own assets while they're still living. So a ton of benefits to that. We talked a little bit about a will. And then to your point, there's also kind of to I think, fill out for most people a complete plan. We want to look at powers of attorney. In Arizona, there's 3. There's financial, there's healthcare, and then mental health care. And mental health care is obviously important for mental health issues, but also it's very important in Arizona for dementia. In fact, most memory care communities, as you're well aware, won't even admit new residents unless they can produce, the loved ones can produce, hey, here's a mental health care power of attorney for this person. And all you're doing in a power of attorney is saying, hey, if I'm ever unable to make my financial health care or mental health care related decisions, here is legally who I'm nominating to do that for me. You kind of put that on a shelf, hope it's never needed, but if that crisis comes up, then you've made that legal delegation and you can avoid having to go to court, which would be the other way to get that legal decision-making authority. And then, of course, in the healthcare realm, I think it's important to have, as you talked about, like a advanced healthcare directive where you're saying, hey, I hope I'm never in a situation where I'm in an irreversible coma or a permanent vegetative state where a doctor says there's no hope of reversing this or coming out of this. But providing, like you said, a roadmap to your loved ones and the medical team to say, hey, this is what I would want to happen to me in this situation. So again, we hope it never has to be taken off the shelf and dusted off. But if you're in that situation, you wanna have it. So it's all those sort of filling the toolbox with those tools to help think about all these situations. And our job at our office is sort of to talk to our clients about what's important to them, what their goals are, what they want to avoid, and then guiding them and teaching them what tools fit around and are going to like sort of build that roadmap or that plan for you. And in fact, we can't expect most of our clients to know, like, oh, I need this legal mechanism in my plan, because they just don't have any exposure or education to it. So at our office, we've boiled down. We have like a concerns assessment that we send to every potential client of ours who's reached out to our office. And we've sort of put a lot of the concerns or the things that we can do legally in everyday English. Like, and are these important to you? And we've set them up in yes or no questions. So yes, no, yes, no. And at the end, it's like, how many yeses do you have? And we've got like 3 ranges. And that tells them, sort of grades them on what level of planning severity they're in based on not what I think, not what Jenny thinks, but their own input about what's important to them or not.
Right. You know, you've been doing this for a little while. And, you know, I love storytelling. And I would imagine that you've had put plans in place and for somebody to share with you. And obviously you probably share those moments too. I mean, look, one of the greatest things that we get to do is help write final chapters of people's lives. I would imagine you've successfully had, when it came time for them to go discharge to heaven, you've successfully helped families with this. And I don't know if you've got any stories that you'd like to share where they were like, hey, Caleb, thank you. You just made this so easy for us.
Yeah. I mean, how much time do you have? Just kidding. I do, you know, as you were saying that, there's a bunch that
I'm sure.
And I'm really fortunate to like do the work that we do, because you can ask me that question and I can think of like right away a dozen stories that I could share. You know, we had one where a financial planner reached out to us, and he had a client who was pushing 90 years old, was a widow and no children, but had, you know, some extended family. Her health was declining, and she had found not an attorney, but like a licensed paralegal service. And this paralegal did a new estate plan for her, which included redoing her trust. And in this new version of the trust, the paralegal put herself in charge. Paralegal gave herself a 6-figure gift, none of which this woman wanted. It was kind of discovered later when the financial planner was doing a review with this client at her home.
Wow.
I think they got connected to me by another professional. And he's like, she's not doing well. She's a diagnosis. She's going to go, but this plan isn't what she wanted. So we kind of dropped everything. We went and made sure, you know, we assessed her and made sure she was cognitively able to do a plan.
Right.
We put it in place, and we went over to the house for the signing. Very quickly, we kind of did it all
You
on
had
an
to,
emergent basis. And
Yeah.
the financial planner meets us at our house, and we're at the end of the signing, and he starts tearing up, and he's like, puts his hand on his client's shoulder, and he says, Mrs. Call her Mrs. Smith. We can sleep now. We can sleep now. And he was like tearing up. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he walked us out. He was like, we did really good work here today. And he was like, you could tell he was like relieved.
Wow.
And then I'm getting emotional just talking about it. And that same week, we had a gentleman who was diagnosed with cancer in his 30s.
Mm.
And his wife, like, I guess he'd had cancer once before, and it had like resolved. And then, so many years came back suddenly, and they found it. It was a vengeance and another short timeline. And we had to scramble, and we did, and put something together. They were sort of a blended family, and things were going to go real ugly if he passed without any planning. And that was another one we were able to get in place. And it was that those two were in like the same month.
You know, Caleb, and I really appreciate you sharing this with us, because it really speaks volumes to the point that you need to plan. You shouldn't have to do these emergency. You know, you successfully did a couple audibles. I mean, you had to drop everything to do that, and you're never always going to be in that position, right? You got lucky. They got lucky that they got your time capital to put back together. And If we really just take our time and sit down with our loved ones, I know it's not just a one conversation, it's a multiple conversation, but really to put those plans in place. And also, having lost parents myself, valuables too. You know, even though financially they may not be worth a whole lot, emotionally they're worth a lot to maybe, the offspring and other family members and relatives. So, assign those to individuals so you can make that roadmap complete, right?
Absolutely. We had a case once where a woman passed. Her estate was worth about 16 million. She had 5 kids, and there was sort of 2 factions. There was sort of a civil war of 2 groups of the kids, and we were involved in it's about a 3.5-year litigation or fight over the estate. And the whole fight, most of the 16 million was undisputed. It was all around $200,000 of the property in mom's house. Some very nice artwork, very nice furniture.
Right.
But they fought for 3.5 years over that stuff.
That's so sad when it
Right.
comes to that.
So
And she could have made it easy for them.
100%.
She could have just said, here, you get this, you get that. And you know what? Don't throw a fit. That's what I want, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I really appreciate you sharing the stories with us and really talking about the purpose of advanced planning, because I seldomly, or should I say, I can't talk about this enough. And I wish more people would talk about it because it would make life so much easier. And it would make it easier for our healthcare system. And I want to go full stop and just say, you know what? If you could just make sure if you have a DNR that everyone knows about it. And, I heard a recent story where, the DNR, someone had it, but they didn't have it out and it wasn't there for the EMS folks to be there.
Mhm.
And this was an older gentleman and his wife had to see the paramedics trying to bring him back to life. And that's something you can't unsee.
Mhm.
So, I know we didn't talk much about a DNR, but a DNR is something you have to have a conversation about.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
talk about the healthcare system. I mean, look, what do they say? Like 50% of the Medicare dollars are used in the last year of life of like 10% of the population or
Mhm.
2%, whatever that number is. It's telling. And if we just had people give their direction, we would be in a better place.
Absolutely. And they make the DNRs on bright orange paper for a reason, so they can be, I always say,
And slap them up on their refrigerator.
yep,
Yeah.
put them on the fridge. And
That's
yeah.
all you need to do.
Mhm.
All right, so let's talk about the symposium that's coming up. This is the Elder Care and Legal Symposium that is hosted. Is this the second one or third?
Technically the third one,
Third.
2nd year in a row.
The second year in a row,
Mhm.
Lynn Law, Elder Care and Legal Symposium. So please tell us about it. Tell us, I'm looking at you, Caleb. Why was it started? What were you trying to accomplish? Because it's not for the aging services group, which is me and others. It's for the community, right?
No, it actually is for sort of our
Both.
peers.
Our
Yeah,
peers.
yeah.
Okay.
There's very few community members there, actually. I designed it sort of for the same like core belief, but the other side of the coin for why we expanded our services to add Ginny. So to be holistic with our clients and the support we provide to them, this is the other side of that. I'm trying to provide more holistic support and resources to those of us who provide care to older adults and their families. And it's very generic, but I call it the circle of care. We're all in this sort of circle of care together. And the symposium is meant to bring together and educate our circle of care on things that are happening. And so, it's not just, it's 8 to 4, but about an hour of it is us providing education. The majority of it is we're bringing in outside resources that are relevant to the majority, or if not all, of the circle of care to better educate themselves on what they're doing, how they work, how they support older clients and their families. So trying to just there's very few opportunities. Everything's in a silo. And it's not
100%.
because people aren't working smartly or efficiently, but it's the way the system's designed. It's the way our world is designed.
Mhm.
And so you know, you work in your home care silo. We work, traditionally in our law firm silo, and then you've got placement silos, and you've got clinician silos, and there's not a lot of cross training or cross talk.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what I want this to be. It brings us all together, a chance to get educated all in one day, and get the sort of multidisciplinary feedback or education that is going to help us all. There's just nothing, I didn't know of anything like it. There's home care conferences, and you're a speaker at 90% of them. And there's all kinds of, there's care manager and case manager conferences,
Elder
there's
law college.
elder law conferences, but how about we all meet together once a
Right.
year? And that's what our symposium is.
No, it's aging services. It's and I love the holistic approach, because I don't mean to sound cliche-ish, but rising tides lift all boats, and for all of us to be more knowledgeable. Because let's face it, when we encounter our clients, and we call them clients too, because we're not clinicians, we're in the home care space, in home supportive care. When we encounter them, they're usually, I wouldn't say usually, but a lot of times they're in crisis mode.
Mhm.
And just as you described how you had to call audibles to help out those two clients of yours, that happens more times than not. And you know what? That old cliche too, that, man plans and God laughs, is so true as well. The unexpected just happens, and then you're stuck, and you got to figure out how to get through it. And really, when you're at that point, you just don't know what services are out there. So it's really important for you to be enlightened and educated and learn. So give me an idea of what they can learn, Jenny, in your experience working with the symposium.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of wonderful opportunities to see some great speakers at our conference. We have continuing education credits approved for social workers, certified dementia practitioners, assisted living facility managers, and hospital nursing home administrators. Um, what did I miss, Caleb? I think that's all of them. Yeah, that's so we have lots of continuing education credits offered to staff. We have Dr. Sharon Bell that's going to be talking about recognizing and assessing diminished capacity. We have Cher Anderton that is going to be talking about helping the helpers, so to provide tools to other professionals in the industry to prevent burnout and make sure that they're taking care of themselves. Holistic planning and advocacy, care coordination and protection in a fragmented system. Caleb and I will be talking about that. We have a panel this year. It's going to be a State of the State panel with Terry Spitz from the Alzheimer's Association, Brendan Blake from AARP Arizona, and then Lisa Pollock, who is the Arizona State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. We also have an overview of elder fraud trends and investigative priorities with an FBI agent, Troy Kofer. And that is kind of a follow-up to piggyback off of last year's presentation from the Attorney General's office. And then we also have Caleb and Rachel, our attorneys, that are going to be speaking about legal mechanisms for delegating decision-making for adults with diminished capacity. And conveniently, it's on National Healthcare Decisions Day.
April 16th.
April 16th.
April
yes.
16th. Conveniently. That just happened.
So
Come on.
weird. Yeah.
It's a weird how
Yeah.
that
It's one of those coincidences.
Mhm.
happened. Sure. April 16th. And where is the event happening?
It's at the Glendale Civic Center.
And do you have an address there?
We do. The Glendale Civic Center is 5750 West Glen Drive in Glendale.
And I did see that you can purchase tickets right up on your website. And I was up there
Mhm.
earlier, and there's a little tab there for the symposium, so it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah, definitely. Come visit our website and purchase a ticket. We'd love to have you all there.
No, I really, really love hearing this, and really, it's about sharing and learning from one another. I would imagine beside these speakers and topics, and pardon me for saying I've not attended, so this is a first one for me. I would imagine that there's probably some really good networking opportunities. And let's face it, I mean, we don't all get together in the same place at the same time. And it's really nice where you're not marketing so much to marketers, you're marketing to people that are thought leaders and people that are looking to be agents of change because we are changing. I mean, the legal profession and the area that you're working in has changed dramatically in the last half a dozen years, and home care has too.
Mhm.
And none of us can ever stay static. We have to be dynamic and we have to be ever changing.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were talking about that before we went on air about how fast the world is changing.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And certainly AI is something that, we all hear about, and it all's impacted the stuff that we do. And I
Mhm.
was sharing just before we started our podcast here today, just some of the things that I'd recently learned through AI. Um, certainly you're talking about a lot here, and it runs from 8 to 4, doors open at 7:30. To learn more, go up to the website or actually contact you guys.
Either one, yeah. And to touch on something you just mentioned, the networking is one of the we have everybody or we ask everybody to do an evaluation, and from our 2 prior symposiums, one of the things that people have touched on the most is how valuable the networking's been and connecting with people they don't in this circle of care that they don't always kind of come across or necessarily cross paths with to the point where they can have a conversation face to face and
Hmm.
do some networking. I was surprised and pleased um, at last year's symposium. I had about 4 or 5 people just come up to me and say, "This is the best conference I've ever been to,"
I love that.
which blew me away. That's not what we were trying to do. That's not what we were planning, but that's was the genuine in the moment reaction. And so now I feel some pressure to duplicate and make
Oh,
it another fantastic conference.
well, I'm sure you will. So I typically try to conclude my podcasts with some rapid fire questions. Kind of, it lets the human side of you come out, and for our viewers and listeners to get a chance to maybe get to know you better. So you ready?
Do it.
Sure.
I
Let's
didn't.
do it.
No plans here, so
Yeah.
I'm going to rapid fire questions at you. One word that describes proactive planning.
Love.
Wise.
One more time.
Wise.
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 There you go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tea.
Biggest mistakes families make.
Not talking about what they want.
100%. Not having the conversations.
Trust or control.
I'll say trust.
Trust.
I like that. Trust. Music in the office, yes or no?
I love music.
we have it's I guess it's a new thing. I couldn't do it. My brain's not wired this way, but we have several younger employees who work with pods in listening to music.
Wow.
So we do have music in the
Yeah.
office. It's just
Just,
individually controlled.
I like that. All right. One document that everyone 18 years or older should have.
100%. If you're going to have one, the healthcare power of attorney.
I agree.
Early morning or early planning or last minute scrambling.
Early morning.
Same.
What does legacy mean to you?
Oh, so good. Legacy to me means choosing how you will be remembered and acting in the way that you want to be remembered.
I was thinking along those same lines, but more how people remember you.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Beach.
Best part of your work?
Relationships.
Same. Relationships and clients.
If you want people remembering one thing from the symposium, it should be
There's always room for learning more.
One thing from the symposium, it's I learned something new today.
I love it. Before I finally wrap up things, is there a lasting statement, a question that I haven't asked that you were hoping that I would ask to help conclude our show?
I don't think you asked the best questions.
Well, thank you.
You
Yeah,
did
I
an
don't.
excellent job. Yeah,
No, I think we covered it.
I agree.
Well, Caleb and Jenny, I love the work that you guys do. And you know that I used a couple cliches, but the one that says that you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And it's so appropriate in the work that you do.
Mhm.
Makes your lives much easier, but more importantly, it makes the clients' lives much easier. And I give you such great kudos for putting this legal and the elder care and legal symposium together to really lift up the community and educate one another on what's going on. We are all drinking from a fire hose. And, you know, I would almost say that you might want to think about doing this twice a year in the spring and the fall because change is happening so fast right now at
Mhm.
lightning speed. And I'm not really kidding. I'm really serious. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you could have a whole different lineup for the fall. And if you're looking to build momentum, I think you've got something here. So good luck to the upcoming symposium. And I really, really appreciate you both being here on the show. And you, our viewers and listeners, thank you for joining us here today. To the Caleb Lynn Law Group, thank you. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. And we'll be back next week. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm Bob Roth, reminding you that living well isn't just about years, it's about the quality of life and connections. Follow and share the show, and join us next time for more on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life.